Get higher, baby. Get higher, baby. Get higher, girl. Hey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Knights of the Pageless Library. We are a little podcast dedicated to reviewing audiobooks. I am Bo Knight, and with me, as always, is Ryan Knight. And today we are taking a look at Titanborn, written by Rhett C. Bruno and read by r.c.bray, I think is how you say his name.
Yeah.
It just looks weird to me.
It does look weird, and it is sort of confusing the fact that it's Rhett C. Bruno and then r.c.bray. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. The fact that it's R.C.B. and R.C.B., that is interesting.
I should mention, too, this is book one of the Titanborn series. This is, I think, only available on Audible, too.
Correct. And I believe this one was free. It might still be free with your, like if you're a Prime member, this one, you can get this first book.
Are they not all?
I don't know, and it takes me a second to figure out how to look them up on my phone. So if anybody knows that, go ahead and email us, kotpl.pod@gmail.com, and let us know if we know what we're talking about or if we're dumb.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, when did this thing come out?
I'm seeing 2019.
Okay, so it's pretty new.
Yeah, this guy, Rhett C. Bruno must be busy because 2 years ago, so in 2019, it looks like Titanborn came out, and he's pretty much, oh wow, most of that whole series came out in 2019.
Oh.
So he wrote 5, 6, 7 books in 1 year. That's pretty impressive.
And it looks like he doesn't just do fantasy stuff. I mean, like sci-fi stuff. He also does some fantasy novels too. So it looks like maybe he has a wide range.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, this is the first time I've ever listened to him.
Yeah, oh, I didn't realize. I knew we had this Dead Acre book in our library. He's one of the 2 writers in that. I haven't listened to it, but we do have that book.
Oh, it looks like a Western, spooky Western.
Anyways, all right, moving on here. So, yeah. Well, so what do you think of Mr. r.c.bray as the narrator of this one?
I think he does a pretty good job. He's real gruff.
I thought so too. I thought for the main character, it was very fitting. There's not really like actually, I thought for Jaff, he did good too. Like,
yeah, he does a good job for Jeff.
Because, and we'll talk about that when we get into it, but because Jaff is supposed to be very monotone, he did a very good job, I think, of doing like Jaff's voice. I'm not necessarily going to say he could make or break this story. I just thought he, on his own, did a good job. I don't necessarily think he added or took anything away from this.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of liked him actually. I feel like he's real gruff. He's real gravelly.
Yeah, and I thought he did a good job. And I think, I mean, I could see him doing several other books that I like and being a very good, narrator for a few different titles that I have in mind. But I just don't know that he, for me, like elevated this title, if that makes sense.
No, I think I understand. But is that his fault?
Right, exactly. So this book is considered a mystery, thriller, sci-fi.
Mystery? What?
Yeah, that's what it says right here on Audible.
Fucking
mystery, thriller, and suspense. I mean, there was one little twist that had me going right up until about 10 minutes before they revealed it. So, I mean, there's that.
Okay, twist to me is a bit okay. never mind. You getting me want to talk about some shit already that I can't talk about.
Okay.
Mystery I have an issue with. That's like
Sure.
going to your fridge and there being no milk and they're being like, oh, mystery, where's my milk?
Right.
Like, no, it's not. You're looking for milk. It's not a mystery.
There's no milk, and there's an empty milk jug.
Yeah, it's like, what happened? That's dumb. Okay.
And I have
I remember
finished
what we were
filling
talking
my
about.
cup of milk.
Yeah.
The length of this
mystery?
one.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So this book clocks in right at 7 hours and 23 minutes, which we forgot to mention. If you, like I said, you can get this one for free, or if you were going to buy this, it would be $19.95.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think time, the amount of like the length of the book compared to the cost, I don't think like $20 is unreasonable. But we will talk about that more here in a minute once we pass our recommendations.
Yeah. What do you think? Is this kind of easy to listen to?
Actually, it kind of was, to be honest. Like it had a couple parts where I was confused, but for the most part, since we only follow this one character, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I like at the beginning, as with any sci-fi novel, when you get kind of battered with just this techno sci-fi babble, it's hard to understand what they're talking about.
The sci-fi word salad for sure.
Yeah, but I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to follow this shit. But then it kind of opened up, and like you said, it's really easy because it's from one perspective, start to finish, and
Right.
so it's very easy to kind of follow.
And I 100% agree with you because I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, here we go. Another sci-fi book just full of sci-fi babble. However, I have to give Rhett C. Bruno some credit here that he did not, like, this is not the worst offender I've ever seen for a sci-fi book.
No.
Yeah. And again, I think this one was pretty easy listening. It's not, r.c.bray does a good job, and it's not so dense that like I was doing other things while I listened to it, and while I'm not going to be able to recall a lot of details, I think I still understand what happened from start to finish.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. So what do you think? You recommend this one or no?
I think if you're a fan of like, okay, what I appreciated about this one is it's sci-fi that's not necessarily far from home, if that makes sense. In a sense of this stuff takes place on or around Earth. It takes place on planets that you've heard of. It takes place in a way that's not so far-fetched that it's like boggles your mind, essentially. So that being said, I think if you're a fan of like sci-fi and you don't have anything else to listen to right now, this would be a
Damn.
good pick.
That was a roast.
But again, I've listened to much worse sci-fi stories for sure.
Okay. I'm not going to recommend this one.
Okay.
I didn't really enjoy it that much. And I felt like the story was kind of paper thin until like the end when they were like, gotcha. And it was like,
Sure.
Did you? Like,
right.
What the fuck? Like, I don't know. The ending to me felt so sloppy and so rushed.
And I agree.
Like, I was kind of on board until then. But I mean, like, they were losing me a little bit, like, towards the middle part. But like, I kind of like the relationship between like our main character and Jaff. I feel like that kind of builds up nicely.
I agree. Yep.
But then I don't know. The ending to me, it was just like, you know what, fuck all that. And then I was like, what is happening? Like, this just doesn't really add up.
Yeah, and I didn't really like how they threw that relationship that we just built up over 5 hours. They just throw it out the window.
Oh yeah, they throw it in the dumpster and blow it up. Like
yeah.
I don't know. It just like there are so many things that you're like, oh, what is this going to be about? Where it didn't end up fucking mattering at all.
Sure.
And I don't know. It just like, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, it's a nice little like sci-fi story, I guess, if you're not going to take it too seriously. But I'm very surprised that this is part of a story like a part of a series? Because this kind of
Series,
seems
yeah.
open and shut to me.
I agree. Yeah.
Like I was not left wanting more, or wanting to know anything else about this universe. I was like, oh, all right, cool, it's over, I guess.
Right.
But there's
Yeah, I
more.
agree. But yeah, there's 4 more books. So apparently this universe is pretty expansive. I mean, and he did a pretty good job with his world building, I will say. Like he did fill in a lot of things, like because there's a lot going on here. Even though we are just following Malcolm Graves, that's the main character. There's a lot of other things being talked about that are happening simultaneously. So there is a lot of meat here. And I could see how he could make a series out of that.
Yeah, and I think the details are the best parts. Like, just like learning about like how people have to go through regular life in this future world, I think was interesting.
Sure.
It's that ending is so bad that it basically makes everything before it not worth your time, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I thought his world building was pretty consistent though. Like when the characters did go to a different planet, he does talk about the fact that there's different gravity and they're affected differently. And I thought that was very, very well put together,
Yeah, it is very consistent. It sticks to its own rules that it makes, and I do like that.
Yeah, I definitely can appreciate that. And I like Graves as a character. And I like the little bit of struggle we kind of see like internally as we do see some growth from him as a character, which is actually pretty well done, I thought, in a very simplistic way. Even it's not like a Game of Thrones, you have to wait 160 hours to see what actually happens to one character that has survived long enough. So
I just felt like I'll put it in quotes, his growth at the end was kind of unearned and it came out of nowhere for me.
It
just didn't really add up. It's like, because I agree with you. He was growing towards something, but it was like, actually, no, he fell through a trap door. Now he's an entirely different person. Like all that stuff that he did before didn't matter.
Yeah. And you're right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This book is not terrible. I don't want anybody to be like, Bo thinks this is hot garbage. It's not hot garbage. The ending, I just take a lot of issue with, and we'll get into it.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into it. So there you go. You kind of have not really recommended from either one of us. Again, if you find yourself without something else to listen to and you're like a fan of sci-fi, you'll be okay with this one, I would say. I don't think you're going to be like blown away by it.
No.
But yeah, so we're going to pass the spoiler wall for anybody who's new here. That means we're basically going to spoil most of the story. So if you want to listen to this book, go ahead and go do that and then come back here and hear what we have to say about it. Or if you think we could sum it up well enough, then just keep listening.
Yeah, maybe skip this one.
Sure. Yeah, so I already can't remember the very opening of this story because it opens with it's not an epilogue, it's a prologue. It opens with a prologue of, are these two ringers that are talking?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think so.
Okay. Because I couldn't remember. And are they basically talking about essentially the plot of the entire story, like what's going to happen?
I kind of get the vibe that they're like people recapping it after the fact.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, that could be true. But basically, we get these.
I guess we should explain what ringers are.
Well, yeah. So basically, in this future, which is not super far in the future, right? It's like
2230 something, I thought.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Something like that. But basically, humans have kind of spread out and started to colonize the solar system that they are in. And ringers are the people who first like left Earth, right? And were colonizing they colonized like Titan, right?
Yeah, Saturn
and a few other things. And they are people who have basically evolved off of Earth, so they have evolved differently than Earth people now because they have multiple generations that have been born on these other planets. So they are no longer like they're humans, but they're pretty much nothing like Earth humans anymore.
Yeah, they're like really tall and thin because the gravity's less on Titan, and they are super vulnerable to all human diseases.
Right. Yeah, so they often are like very pale. They're very like thin-skinned, and they usually have to always be wearing like breathing apparatus or something to try to keep them from getting any sort of like earth bacteria into them or on them at all.
Yeah.
So this opening little prologue opens with a few of those people talking about a plot of some kind. That's the key takeaway from the prologue.
And then we get to we pick up with Graves, and he's a collector. So he's like basically a bounty hunter for businesses is the way I understood it, right?
Right. And the specific business he works for is Provenio Corp. So
it's just like the biggest company there is, right?
So basically think in the future, he would work for Amazon and the other guy we'll meet later works for Walmart. Like,
yeah, kind of, yeah.
It's kind of, or Google, Amazon and Google, we'll put it that way.
It would be like if you didn't pay your Amazon bill, and instead of like not sending you packages, that a dude just showed up at your house and shot you in the face.
Yeah, he kicked in your door. He told you to pay him the credits, because that's what they call them, is credits. You know, because every sci-fi book has to have credits.
Yeah, that's very fair.
I just find it funny though, because like as we go on through this, so it's Provenio, and I cannot think of the name of the other company. It starts with like a V, I think. But it's just funny because like, you know, 1 year Provenio will launch like the ship, and the next year it's like their rival is launching a ship, and so they have this like, these are basically the two largest corporations in the universe at this point, as far as humans go. So they're constantly just like, they're neck and neck on who can do, you know, outdo the other.
Yeah. There's just freaking two competing titans.
Exactly.
But he is going in to like break up a mining colony. They are like on strike, and he's like going in to specifically take out like their leader. So, because as any rich business person knows, when the help gets uppity, if you take out their leader, they're kind of going to lose strength.
Sure.
And he goes in, right, and he botches it, which to me, when I was listening to it, it didn't really sound like he botched it that bad. He like hesitates for a couple seconds, and so people end up getting killed. And so he's on leave on Earth, right? He's like in mandatory vacation.
Yeah, they put him on mandatory vacation because he botched that. Yeah.
But did it sound like he botched it to you? Because like when I was listening to it, it didn't seem that bad.
I didn't really think so. That did kind of confuse me. I do like the fact though that he like botched it, and he's also been doing this for like ever. So it's part of his like character, the fact that he's like, he's an expert, but he's getting old. So like some of his, you know, faculties are slipping. And I did like that as far as his character kind of quirks go.
So he's like at a bar on Earth. It's almost M Day, which I don't remember what that means. Or is it M Day?
It is M Day because, and this is when they send, like every year, they send another ship into space that's going to try to colonize further and further away from Earth, essentially.
Right.
It's really, really dumb. Like, it does seem like something humans would do, though.
Yeah, it is very human.
Because and Graves even mentions it. He's like, I've seen so many of these take off, but I've never seen like hardly any land, because it takes them like 150 years to get where they're going.
Yeah, it takes a long time to go through space.
Yeah. Anyways, and this is where so while he's at the bar, right, he meets a ringer, and he has a conversation with this guy, and I can't for the life of me remember the anything that was said.
I mean, they basically just talk about like the class structure and how like ringers are treated worse than just normal humans.
And does he know he's a ringer at this point, or was he just thinking he's an off-worlder?
No, he knew he was a ringer because the way he was dressed, right? He has like a mask on and rubber gloves, and his eyes are all fucked up just from being
Oh,
on Earth. Like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
all
yeah.
red and bloodshot.
It's shortly after this when they catch him on security footage that they think he's an old man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess we should explain a little more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Keep going. I just am reminding myself.
Well, we should mention too, throughout this whole time, Graves is talking about like he had a daughter that he used to bring with him on missions.
Who was an illegal daughter, by the way.
Well, yeah, we don't know that part yet,
Right.
but he just had a daughter that he like as he's going through this M day, he's remembering like the first M day he spent with her.
Right. Which he was like up on the roof, right? Letting her shoot his pistol or something.
Yeah.
His space pistol.
And while he's at this bar, right, like a big bomb goes off.
It's not is it while he's there or is it after he leaves because of the I can't remember either. But yes, at some point a bomb is set off. And it's like during the launching of the ship, right? So it causes like ultra pandemonium because there's tons of people gathered out in the streets and stuff to see another ship leave the planet, to go colonize. And he ends up with more flashbacks, right? Because he rescues like some lady and her daughter or something like that. So we find out because he's supposed to be on vacation, but he ends up like reporting in that he like what happened. And
I thought they'd call him because they're like, "Oh, you're there, aren't you?"
Oh, you might be right. Yeah,
because then
exactly
then they tell him, they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you have a partner now."
That's right. Yep, that's right. You're gonna take that's right because they think they know what's going on, or they have like an idea, so they are gonna assign him a partner, and him and his partner are gonna go investigate what they think the cause of the bombing was.
And obviously he's pissed off because I work alone, damn it.
Yeah. Because he used to consider his daughter his partner, like as she was growing up, and we learn a little bit more about like what happened with his daughter as the story goes on. But then he's introduced to his partner, right? This is Jaff, and Jaff is a what'd you call him?
Cogent.
That's right. Which is
I think means cyborg. I'm not sure.
I can't 100% say that with confidence. He's a human, but he wears like this. He has one eye that's blind, which we learn why later, but on his other eye, he wears like a lens that's like green, and it's like plugged into his head. It's not just like on his eyeball. It's like plugged into his head. And Jaff is like hyper trained in a lot of things, essentially. And the first thing they need to do is track down the bomber, obviously, whoever set this bomb off.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of freaking semantics that happens here. I mean, like obviously immediately their two styles clash because Jaff is very by the book, as a robot would be.
Sure. Yeah, and Graves is very much so like get the job done at all costs.
Yeah.
So basically they end up figuring out that the ringer that Malcolm Graves had met at the bar is the one who planted and set the bomb off. So they have to go find this guy. He also like didn't he like beat the shit out of a freaking mechanic and like that's right, because then he was basically there was another plan this ringer was going to set in motion, but they catch him, and the guy ends up killing himself before they can kill him, and he talks about the Titanborn, and the Children of Titan. That's what their organization is called. Yeah, the Children of Titan is what this organization is called. And he has some little saying that he says that like all kind of cultists would say right before they kill themselves. And so now Graves and Jaff have to take this information back to Provenio and let them know that, hey, there's a chance there's going to be like an uprising from the ringers, basically.
Well, and then they get immediately called to Titan.
Right. They have to go to the planet of Titan. Yes.
Yeah, we get like a little scene of them being in the ship and all that stuff.
Yeah, and they get put like in hypersleep. And I found it hilarious that they wake up from hypersleep and Jaff gets on the treadmill and Graves just wants to take a nap.
Yeah.
right after he came out of hypersleep, which is pretty funny.
Oh, and I think at this point, we think we would have learned like what happened between him and his daughter.
Yeah.
So his daughter, like, they were like on a mission to find a guy and kill him, I think. And his daughter like befriended the guy on Titan because she'd always kind of been sympathetic to the ringers because we didn't talk about this. She is a ringer. Like he had an illegitimate child with somebody from Titan.
Yeah, she's like part ringer, part human, or part ringer, part Earth, because they're all humans technically. But yeah, part ringer and part Earth person.
And she wasn't supposed to exist, so his plan was to like train her up to be such a good collector that she could, like, even though she wasn't supposed to exist, they would have to accept her because she was so good.
Right.
But she like ends up getting close to this guy that they're supposed to kill and like disappears with him. But Graves had put a tracking device in this little pendant that he had given her like a long time ago. So he was able to track her, and he tracks her down and ends up murdering this dude and leaving his son an orphan. And it really pisses his daughter off, obviously, as it would. And so they haven't spoken since. And that was like 8 or 9 years before this, right?
Yeah, and he like said that he messaged her like on some worldwide messaging thing, but she like has since stopped responding to him. He hasn't heard from her in years. So they get to Titan and they've started learning, right, that there's a name of some guy that is like heading this rebellion, is what you might as well call it. And so now they're trying to figure out where this guy might have gone, right? And is this when they get on the other ship? They have to like go, there's a ship in orbit, right, that they go to?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I just remember they go there and yeah, some stuff happens. And then they have to meet like his old girlfriend so they can get some information.
Yeah, okay, so they go to the ship, they find like a wrist tracker or a wrist.
Oh, no, so
thing.
they go out because they had a ship was like planned to crash into like some of Prevenio's shit, I thought, right? And so they had to like go out and disarm it before it would crash. Okay.
Yep. Well, when they like it's there and they can't get a hold of it, right? And then when they get on the ship is when it starts heading towards their Prevenio stuff. So basically like they have to disable it or Prevenio's just going to shoot it down. Doesn't matter who's on it. They're just going to shoot it down. So Jaff hacks into it with his like robot powers and they stop it. But then they come up with this that like wrist thing, right? And they have to use that. Then they're going to go talk to his old girlfriend who is a ringer, and hopefully because she's like a information broker, and they're going to see if she can figure out what the Children of Titan's plan is.
Or yeah, if she knows anything about it.
Right. So this is when they have to go and they have to like go in disguise, right? Into the like club.
Yeah, not necessarily disguised, but they just don't want to look like rich, so they don't have like any of their Prevenio stuff, and they don't have armor or anything like that on. And Jaff has to take off his eye lens.
Right. Which I did kind of like this part that they have to like kind of dress down, and it makes like Jaff feel super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Graves is like okay with it because he's used to doing this kind of stuff, but Jaff is like, he has to like force Jaff to slouch. He's like, you have to try to blend in or they're gonna make us for the minute we walk in the door. And then the guards at the door like shake him down for a bunch of freaking money to get in because they know they're not telling the truth about who they are, to an extent. But they're like, it's gonna cost you 150 credits each to get in here.
Yeah, which is nothing to either one of them though.
Right. But they're trying to pretend to be like minors, and they know it would be a lot to minors.
Right.
So they meet with his old girlfriend, his old fling. She turns out to try to stab them in the back, and Jaff catches on immediately and pulls some seriously badass shit. He like steals one of the guard's guns, shoots the guard, and immediately shoots her in the leg. Like, it's pretty cool. I did like that. And then Jaff is hardcore because she like goes to strike a bargain. Like, she's basically gonna say, I won't tell you anything unless, and Jaff like leans down and puts his hand in the bullet wound. Like, to basically torture her in place to make her tell the truth. And I was like, dang, this dude is not screwing around.
Oh, I guess we should mention too that Jaff can tell when people are lying.
Yeah. Jaff has like, it's not even necessarily like supernatural that he can do it. He actually, we find out later, is basically just like, he's kind of on a different wave than everybody else, essentially.
Yeah, he's more than just a cogent.
Right. So with the information that they get from, I don't even remember her name.
Me neither.
They get some information from her. And then they go meet with the Provenio Corps boss, right?
Just Graves.
Right. Graves goes and meets with the Provenio, like Mr. Provenio himself. And Provenio is going to give them their next assignment, which is basically going to go and slap down this, Children of Titan uprising. He's like, you got to put a stop to this.
Doctor something. I can't remember what the fucking name is.
It's the Doctor.
Oh, the Doctor. Okay.
The Doctor. Yeah. They just go by the Doctor.
And they are in the quarantine zone.
Right. Yeah. And basically, because Provenio basically says like, you need to put this down because I don't want to have to kill all these people. Like, and not because he can't, but because he says it will look bad.
Yeah.
So that's just to put it in perspective, like what kind of situation they're all living in.
And Provenio also explains that Jaff is his son.
Right. He is an illegitimate son, just like Graves' daughter is.
And I don't remember why he made him a cogent.
Because he was really, like, this is what I mean when I say he's like on a different wavelength. Like, he got picked on all the time in school and stuff, and then some kids beat the shit out of him so bad that he couldn't see out of that's why his one eye is blind. So that's why he decided to go ahead and enroll him in the cogent initiative thing, because he knew that would be something he would be really good at because of like how his brain works. And it was an easy way to keep him, like, to keep everybody from figuring out that it was Provenio's son.
Yeah, I guess okay, that's right.
So then they go, and I can't remember, is the quarantine zone on Titan or is it on like one of the moons?
I think it is on Titan.
On Titan. Okay, either
I'm
way.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think so.
Yeah, I can't really remember off the top of my head. But either way, they go, and they're immediately met with like hostilities because, they go and they're trying to tell these guys, look, we need to just talk to the doctor. Like, they're trying to explain they want to settle this, before anybody gets hurt. And then, is this the big reveal? Like the big twist?
I think they get into like a scrap, don't they? And then they have to put on spacesuits to go outside. I can't remember why. Because like the doctor's not in the quarantine zone itself. She's like slightly, I spoiled it. She's like in a little bit of, she's like, they have to go through open space that's not like terraformed or anything like that.
Right. Well, and okay, so yeah, they end up going through that. They get in a scrap with Titanborn that are using the flying suits, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there had been like rumors that people on Titan back in the day had made like flying suits because the gravity was so much lower. So basically all they had to do was have these like suits made with like basically they could jump and fly because of the suits and the low gravity. And they get attacked by guys doing this. They thought it was just a legend, but these guys are actually doing that. And I think they wound one of them before they get to where.
Oh yeah, that's right. They wound him and they follow him, right?
Yeah, yep. And basically they make it into this like kind of area where Graves gets a little bit sick to his stomach because he just sees all of these ringers. They're all like sick and dying, and they're like there's bodies like in piles. So this is where they will meet the doctor, and we find out that the doctor is none other than Graves' daughter.
At which point I was like, are you fucking serious?
Right.
Which to me, it makes no sense.
The only part of it that makes no sense to me is how roundabout way it is of bringing Graves and his daughter back together.
Well, yeah, like why would it be her? This is the thing that doesn't really make sense to me.
Exactly. Like, and Provenio could have sent any other collector to do this job.
Yeah, like
So-
it just doesn't really make sense that it would be her with Graves. Like it just doesn't really add up to me
Right.
that she would be like in control of all these people already.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them don't trust her. Like we kind of learn a little bit
Oh
in this
yeah, I
part
guess that's
that
true.
a lot of them don't even really like her. But basically what she decided to do, like after that day with Graves and her where he shot that guy, even though she begged him not to, and he did it anyways, like that's where we kind of figured out Graves is like a monster. But the whole book has kind of been him subverting that like initial thing that broke him and his daughter up until about 5 minutes from now. So they basically he's torn because obviously he's supposed to turn his daughter in, and Jaff now knows too, like because he tried to keep Jaff out of there first, right?
Well, they wouldn't let Jaff in.
That's right. They wouldn't let Jaff in. So Graves is the only one who knows it at this point. But Jaff like shoots his way in and figures out what's going on. And Jaff doesn't necessarily know that the doctor is Graves' daughter, but Jaff is going to follow protocol at all costs and turn her in.
Right.
So Graves makes the decision to shoot and kill Jaff.
Yeah, which honestly I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious?
Same here.
Like it kind of pissed me off because they were like really building up this relationship between the two of them. And then it's like, actually, you know, none of that fucking matters. Who cares?
Yeah. I'm not a writer and I don't know what would have been better, but it might have almost been better to me like if Jaff, like if they got into like a firefight and Jaff got wounded and Graves, instead of just turning on him point blank, then Graves like makes it look like, oh yeah, Jaff was killed by somebody else, which is still what turns out to happen. Like that's how they spin it at the end, is that Jaff was killed by a ringer basically. But it just felt so like, you've been building this relationship for like 5 hours and oh man, yeah, it was disappointing.
And so he saves her, right? So she could like make Titan better. But like it makes no sense to me because the fact that Jaff is dead pisses Provenio off. So he basically decides to kill them all.
Yeah,
so
because
it's like, what the hell would the next books be about? Like, I don't understand. Because I feel like he made it worse.
Yeah, and I agree because, so the epilogue is Mr. Provenio finding out that Jaff was killed during their little expedition, and then basically swearing that he's going to wipe out all of these ringers, you know. And he's not like the military, but his company is so big that that's not like unfathomable for him to be able to do.
Yeah, he can basically do whatever he wants.
Right. And that's pretty much the end of the book. I thought up to the point where he shoots Jaff was okay. And then when he shoots Jaff, I'm like, God damn it, really? Like, come on.
But like you were mentioning, like there's character development in him kind of accepting, like, okay, Jaff is helpful. Like we make a really good team. Like this, you get the vibe. It's like, oh, this is the start of something great. And then at a coin flip, I feel like he was like, oh, it's time to shoot Jaff in the fucking mouth.
Right.
Like I don't know. It just, to me, it like the consistency of him, like all of a sudden flipping when he sees that it's his daughter doesn't really add up that much.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed out by that. Like, it would have almost been better if like Graves helps his daughter, like, escape out the back before Jaff can see her, and then like does his best to like keep Jaff from following her or finding her, but without killing him. Like,
I don't know. I feel like the story, like it doesn't, to me, it did not make sense for him to let her go at all. Just because she's his daughter, like it doesn't really add up. He never really like was devoted to himself more than his company at any point in the story before that.
right. Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, the whole point of Graves is that he is kind of, like I said at the beginning, get the job done like at all costs. So for him to now come across his like estranged daughter who he hasn't spoken to in years, who is now basically inciting a rebellion, and then to be like, oh yeah, I'll turn against my company that I've been working for my entire life, is, and it, like you said, flip of a coin. Not even like oh, I need to think about this for a
No,
little while.
it was literally like all of a sudden he's like, you have to escape. There is no like internal monologue or anything. It's just like all of a sudden he's trying to get her to leave. That's
Right.
it. And I just felt it was like, what? Are you serious right now?
I feel like it would have been better served as like in Hot Fuzz when he is pointing the gun at his own dad and then
He shoots it in the air.
and he shoots in the air. That would have made much more sense. Like, he's just torn between his daughter and doing the job, and you would see that internal struggle. But instead, no, he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot Jeff. It's like, what?
Well, especially the scene before that, he's talking about like how much he actually likes being around him and like having him on his team.
Right.
It's just like, what? Oh yeah, but we should mention too that Graves dies.
Graves dies. You're right. So Graves dies, and we should also mention that at one point he kills a collector from the other biggest company in the universe. So,
oh yeah, I forgot about that shit.
So now he basically has to die, because otherwise he has literally like the two biggest companies in the universe with a target on his back.
Yeah.
I forgot that he dies. That's right. He does die. Because when Provenio gets the information, he says they're both dead, right?
Yeah, because he just hit. I want to say like before Jaff comes in the building, he's trying to get his daughter to escape. So he's like, shoot me real quick. So he'll think that you just like escaped. And she shoots him, but Jaff is already on them at that point.
Yeah. And actually, he shoots Jaff in the head, and Jaff still gets a shot off.
Oh yeah, that's right. He shoots him again.
It opens his suit, right? And he ends up freezing to death because his suit
that's right. Jaff
opens.
shoots him before. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Because Jaff realizes like a split second too late what Graves is doing, and still gets that last shot off. Yeah, it's kind of just disappointing though.
Yeah, the whole
Like,
ending just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
especially when you had these two really good characters that could have gone, like, if you had those two characters, even if it was just them going through like shenanigans together, I could probably get behind that. But now you killed those two. So
yeah, the most interesting parts of the book are gone. That's what I mean. It's like, how is there a sequel?
Right. Yeah, because I'm assuming the sequel has to be new characters now. So
it's probably about his daughter, who I didn't even like. I don't know. I feel like her character wasn't that interesting.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I've listened to a lot worse books, but this one just, it sits on the kind of meh scale for me.
Meh.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely.
But yeah, so that's Titanborn there, folks. Book 1, like we said, of the Children of Titan series. So, with that, what are we doing next time, Bo?
Have we decided?
Nope. We haven't. Let's see. I was going to recommend. You know what? Let's do something short.
That's what I said last time. And you're like 7 hours. That's short. I was like, no, it's not.
Yeah, that was my bad. Let's do. No, that's another Laird Barron book.
We could do The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's only an hour long.
Oh God. Oh, I don't know, man. I think I've listened to that in podcast form, and I don't think I'm smart enough to talk about that.
Oh, for sure. I've listened to it before too, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh, let's do The Food of the Gods by Terrence McKenna.
Okay.
I mean, it's not short, it's 8 hours, but yeah. So look forward to that.
The fuck?
We're gonna do Food of the Gods by Terrence McKenna next. So
Yes.
yeah, check out that.
Stay tuned for more Anime Squires, as always.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting close to the end of Samurai Champloo, so if anybody has any recommendations for new anime that we should watch, we'd really appreciate that.
Sure.
Anything else? Any announcements?
I don't think so. Again, just thank you everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. And yeah, feel free to email us, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, all those things. We really appreciate that stuff. So
Yeah, and hopefully you guys will be around for the next one because I'd appreciate it.